Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. May I first, Mr. Chairman, express my delegation's delight in welcoming you to the chairmanship of our Permanent Council. Already through your magisterial and balanced conduct of your first meeting last week as chair, you have indicated the high quality that we can all expect of your term in office. Please be assured, sir, of the full support of the delegation of Antigua and Barbuda. Mr. Chairman, I also acknowledge the presentation of Commissioner Gloria Monique Demise of the IACHR report entitled Venezuela, Serious Human Rights Violations in Connection with the Elections, though it seems to have various titles. That's not the title that she actually called out when she spoke today. Mr. Chairman, at the outset of this intervention, I want to make it clear that my remarks are not an endorsement of any regime or party in Venezuela, nor do they seek to downplay the gravity of human rights concerns, particularly the detention of political persons or threats to detain them in that country. Antigua and Barbuda has consistently upheld its commitment to the principles of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, particularly free, fair, and transparent elections, and we speak today with those values firmly in mind. The IACHR, Mr. Chairman, holds an important place in our hemisphere as a guardian of democracy and human rights. Reliance is placed on its reports to inform decision-making on matters of profound importance. It is therefore essential that the Commission adheres to the highest standards of impartiality, reliability, and thoroughness in its work. While the report before us highlights significant concerns, there are critical areas that could have benefited from more rigorous attention to ensure its credibility. The report acknowledges that the IACHR was unable to conduct direct investigations in Venezuela due to being denied entry by the Venezuelan government. While this limitation is beyond the Commission's control, it underscores the need for even greater care in drawing conclusions based primarily on secondary sources. And, Mr. Chairman, throughout this report, it is mostly secondary sources upon which the report has relied. The report relies heavily on information from media outlets, opposition parties, and a partisan watchdog group. Media sources such as Infobae and Espacio Público are cited repeatedly across more than 126 footnotes in this report. 126. While these sources provide useful perspectives, reliance on them without corroborative evidence raises questions about the robustness of the findings. Furthermore, there's little discussion of counterclaims or alternative perspectives from other sources. The most serious allegations include state terrorism, not only in the report, but in the remarks made today by the Commissioner. But these are not substantiated by forensic audits or verified evidence. It's a serious claim to make. For instance, the report attributes the description of state terrorism at paragraph 2 in its report to a press release from the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Yet, Mr. Chairman, careful reading of the High Commissioner's press release, which is cited and footnoted in the report, reveals no reference whatsoever to state terrorism. Further, the claims of electoral manipulation made in the report lacked the type of corroboration expected in reports of this seriousness and significance upon which this permanent council is required to make a judgment. Conversely, the report itself cites independent observers like the Carter Center and the UN panel of experts as saying that the electronic voting system in Venezuela is, quote unquote, secure and reliable. This nuance is not adequately addressed or reconciled in the report. The report would have greatly benefited from detailed transparency about how evidence was collected and verified. This is crucial, Mr. Chairman, for maintaining impartiality, especially given the contentious political environment in Venezuela. The report presents opposition claims as facts, while framing government statements as allegations. By doing so, the report undermines the objectivity of the IACHR in whose name it is issued. Mr. Chairman, to uphold its credibility, the IACHR must ensure that its reports adhere to the highest evidentiary and methodological standards. This includes corroborating secondary sources with direct evidence where possible, providing balanced perspectives, and addressing external factors that affect governance. Antigua and Barbuda has itself experienced similar circumstances with an IACHR preliminary inquiry, which relied solely on one media account which reported remarks by only one member of one opposition party. No corroboration. We are also aware that other delegations in this council have raised similar concerns about IACHR methodologies in respect of their own countries. Mr. Chairman, my delegation emphasizes that our hesitation to fully endorse this report does not stem from a disregard for the IACHR's mission, about which we have spoken in support many times in this Council and publicly otherwise. But our concern is raised from a deep belief in the IACHR's importance. We believe that the Commission must continue to strive for excellence as a pillar of the inter-American system. The report at paragraph 156 states unequivocally that, quote, this report prevents this Commission from considering that the re-election of Nicolas Maduro was democratic and legitimate, end of quote. In other words, having conducted no investigation of its own and relying entirely on secondary sources, the IACHR effectively rejects the government in Venezuela. Well, that's fine. They can do that. Doesn't make it right. However, 3 paragraphs later, in paragraph 159, the IACHR formally requests consent from the same government it just rejected to visit the country and to verify compliance with its recommendations. This contradiction raises practical challenges about how the IACHR expects to engage with a government it has deemed illegitimate, particularly in implementing recommendations the IACHR would like to see in place. Mr. Chairman, although the Venezuelan government is withdrawn from this organization and no longer regards itself as bound by the Charter and ancillary inter-American conventions, my delegation calls on the Venezuelan government to respect its broader international obligations. These include the release of arbitrarily detained individuals, ensuring freedom of expression, adhering to democratic norms, particularly the sanctity of embassies and the peaceful settlement of disputes, not aggressive action. Despite its withdrawal from the OAS, Venezuela remains bound by international norms, international law, and the principles of the United Nations Charter. These principles are not abstract ideals. They are the foundation for peace and respect for the civil and political rights of individuals and peoples. Therefore, while my delegation urges the IACHR to strengthen its methodology and ensure balance and fairness in its work, we also call upon the Venezuelan government to honor its international obligations. I reiterate that my delegation's intervention here this morning regarding the IACHR report is not intended to favor any party in Venezuela. The politics of Venezuela is the business of the Venezuelan people. Instead, it is a call for balance and objectivity, principles essential to maintaining the credibility and moral authority of the IACHR in the eyes of our peoples and the international community. Mr. Chairman, I thank you.